Hello, I'm Britton Clennett and welcome to China Insight, where we discuss the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. Well, solving the income disparity between China's eastern and western regions has become an increasingly important task for the country's development. Steps are being taken to speed up development in central and western China. But can such initiatives like One Belt, One Road fix the regional imbalance? Well, to help me find out what kind of impact they might have, I'm joined by Professor Liu Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics. Welcome to the program.
Yes, it's been quite a pleasure.
I just want to start by asking you why there is this income disparity between China's east and west.
Well, eastern part was really the first batch of the beneficiary from the Chinese open door policy because of the adjacency to the more prosperous neighborhood like Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Japan, and those for Asian tigers, and also because of the geographical advantage with so many ports and sea roads going on. So therefore, the Chinese government identified the coastal area as the first batch to open door for foreign investment and for ocean transportation, etc., while the western area are really landlocked one, and they are really the last batch that are there to receive the government attention. And
well, you bring up an interesting point, actually. Yeah, access to ports is very important.
That's right. So in China, we always have a slogan that is painted on the wall almost on every village, that if you want to get rich, you got to expand your reach, meaning you build roads and infrastructure development. So I think that brings a second reason that actually the coastal area has been highly sophisticated in terms of the infrastructure, and so therefore transportation, logistics, warehousing, and industrial cluster can easily function with a more sophisticated the infrastructure, where the West has been really lagging behind in the infrastructure development. So therefore, the cost of doing business, both in terms of transportation and communication, is unable to rival with that of the coastal area. So that's the second reason. And third, the western part experience and has been experiencing actually a brain drain during the entire open door process, because more of the foreign companies and even those Fortune 500 ones, they park in the coastal area, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Dalian, you name it, and they offer very attractive packages. So therefore, young talent people with enterprise, so they rather flock from those hinterland area to those coastal area for better job. So that that turned out to be a sort of victimizing the sort of western area that are already suffering from the brain drain. So yes, they eventually bring some money back at home, and that can enrich their local livelihood, but that doesn't really bring enterprise.
Right.
And that doesn't bring technology even to the local towns.
During the show, we have a particular focus on Gansu Province, which is one of the poorest provinces in the West. Why is that the case, in your view? Well,
the Gansu area actually is very rich in a lot of local produce. So, for example, the medlar, there are grapes, there are melon, and there are, say, the potatoes and tomatoes. They really enjoy superb quality because of the natural endowment. And also,
and in quality, you mean quality of life?
I mean, quality of those produce, because of the sunshine, because of the location,
right.
And also because they are on a high plateau, so therefore there's more quality content within their local produce. So the number two is that actually Lanzhou has been home to many of those, the petrochemical industry and many of those heavy machinery industry. And they are not really benefiting a lot to the local GDP. Number one, that those local produce, they are being sold for so many years as a local produce, manufactured or semi-manufactured with little added value. So, for example, how to turn the metal into packaged ones, into hand-picked ones, and turn them into great wine, and turn them into medicine so that they can have better value, so that also people will earn more out of the expanded value chain. So that's something they have not done, not to mention the brand building process. And number two, that given those heavy industries, they are monopolized by the state-owned firms, particularly those centrally state-owned firms. So those firms, they are operating as a small kingdom in those, hinterland area like Gansu, that they surrender more of the tax revenue to the central government, and they do not employ a lot of local people. But I think now policy is gradually changing. But it takes a lot more time because people are now more content with the status quo. Life is slow and easygoing, and which I would really admire this type of life when you are really get very tired in those big cities. But if you look at the economic performance, they are still in the lower rank to compare with any other provinces in this country. And fortunately, their GDP in recent years has managed to stay above the national average. So last year, 8.1, which was not bad.
Okay, well, China Insight reporter Joey Catanzaro travelled to Gansu Province on the edge of the Gobi Desert to investigate what's being done to boost the economy there. Let's take a look.
This is Lanzhou, the modern-day capital of Gansu Province in China's far western reaches. In ancient times, this region was an economic powerhouse and a vital trade route on the old Silk Road. But these days, much like the mighty Yellow River that cuts through the city, opportunity flows to the east. And the development boom that's taken place in China's coastal provinces over the past 30 years is just a distant echo here. Gansu is now one of the poorest and least developed provinces in all of China. But policymakers hope this province, with its rich history, now has a shot at making something better of its future. The past lies heavy on Gansu, and the trappings of fallen empire are only ever a step away. The trade corridor that saw rivers of riches flow between China, Central Asia and Europe is long gone, but its legacy remains. Thousands of years ago, the region that is modern-day Gansu Province was an important cultural and commercial gateway between China and the ancient world. And the remnants of those glory days can be found here in the Gansu Provincial Museum. The Silk Road's origins lie in China's Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BC. But Gansu's history stretches back even further. A treasure trove of artefacts discovered in tombs here provide a window into the region's rich and illustrious past and the wealth its people once enjoyed.
由于它的地理位置，是甘肃在丝绸之路的这个节点上占有非常重要的一大段，我们把它称之为是丝绸之路的黄金段。我们全长在甘肃有1500多公里的这样的一个路线。 都是丝绸之路非常重要的一个节点。我们从长安过来，然后经过甘肃，最后到新疆，经过新疆，走了西亚。那么，正因为甘肃这样独特的地理环境，还有我们的生态环境，以至于在丝绸之路上曾经留下的非常重要的瑰宝，能够得以保存，最后收藏在我们甘肃省博物馆。
The past is a draw card for modern-day tourists, among them quite a few foreigners. But nothing new. The Silk Road made Gansu a cultural melting pot of the ancient world. Even its most iconic relic, the famed flying horse, is a bronze depiction of a breed native to what is now Uzbekistan. This foreign influence is evident in many artifacts.
Especially this one shows Gansu's very unique region. We can see big eyeball, eyes, nose. It is not image of Chinese, like a Western people. Also at that time, the Western peoples, a lot of came into China, brought Western culture to China, also brought Chinese culture to the Western area. So this person make a great contribution at that time for the explorer of the Silk Road.
那么最新的考古发现，在俄罗斯南部的这个南部草原上，曾经巴泽利克这个墓地里头就出现过我们情人织的这种丝织物和羊毛织物。同样呢，在我们鄂尔多斯，甚至在我们甘肃的张掖的考古发现，也出土了大量的来自于西亚的一些冶金技术和冶金人物。
The flower of Gansu's youth is long gone. Today, the province ranks in the bottom 3 nationals of annual GDP per capita at just $3,600 per person per year. Its 8.9% GDP growth rate is well above the national average, but it has the 5th highest debt-to-GDP ratio of any province in China. Still, business is blooming for some, this flower farm among them, and prosperity is expected to grow on the back of a plan backed by billions of dollars. It's called the Belt and Road Initiative, a patchwork of trade deals and new infrastructure that seeks to revive the old Silk Road. This is the biggest rose production base in China. More than 50% of the roses sold in China every year are grown here. The operation employs more than 100,000 locals, and they're growing tens of millions of tons of roses each year. They're literally making flowers bloom in an area that looks and feels somewhat like a desert. And modern technology, production scale and distribution have made the bouquets here bankable.
我们这个苦水玫瑰啊，现在是我们国内最大的一个基地，下来我们这个种植基地下来有11万多亩，啊，目前基本上占到全国玫瑰的50%以上。另外，它这个玫瑰啊，它既有药用价值，又有这个食用价值，又有能做精油，所以的话，它深受我们亚洲人群和欧美人群的喜欢。
People have been growing flowers in Yongdong County for centuries, and many families have been working the land here for generations. These days, it's big business, and there's no time to stop and smell the roses. Strong demand for Gansu's rose products amongst China's rising middle class means wages and living standards here are also on the rise. Zhangye is located in the Gobi Desert, but there's actually water here. Runoff from the nearby mountains feeding the Black River. In ancient times, this was an important stop on the old Silk Road, a chance to grab a drink of water before the harsh desert crossing. Today, the desert is beginning to bloom. Hundreds of thousands of hectares here have been turned into agricultural land using irrigation. What you're actually looking at right now is the modern-day man-made oasis for the new Silk Road. It was all hard-scrabble country around these parts until the local government provided tax concessions and facilitated access to low-interest loans, allowing farmers to find their feet. These fields in the desert are turning over more than $30 million per year. Soil and fertiliser was shipped in, and there's now some 60,000 acres of cultivated land in the region, with plans to create more. Many of the experts making the desert bloom came here as part of China's Go West plan, an initiative designed to encourage skilled young people to leave the crowded megacities of the east and move to places like Gansu, where they can make their mark, make a difference, and make a good wage while enjoying a lower cost of living. Li Ding is one of them.
3 years ago, I come here and work here, and there were 28 students graduated from Tsinghua University. And this city is a beautiful city. And we come here because our country's Go West plan is a good policy. And we can here work and make more people get a better life, and we feel very happy here.
Far from the coastal regions, which developed rapidly by pumping manufacturing goods out across the globe through giant seaports, Gansu was long cut off from international trade, but not anymore. This is the new Wu-Wei bonded zone, and it's a potential economic game changer. This area may not be much to look at, but its significance in China's plan to open up the west of the nation and ramp up the local economy cannot be understated. What you're actually looking at right now is the resurrection of China's ancient Silk Road. The bonded zone is a commercial waypoint between China and the world, thanks to a new railway which stretches from Gansu all the way to Europe.
Since 2014, we just operated 33 log trains to Central Asia and Europe. Also, totally the products about 170 million US dollars as a year. So for the Gansu Province, I think it's a big number for the local people and the local government. That's the first time we just transport our local products to the Central Asia and Europe.
The first time, that is, since ancient times. In operation since 2014, it's the 21st century incarnation of the old Silk Road. The zone serves a similar function as a coastal port. Tax exemptions and streamlined customs procedures are acting like a magnet for investment, and more than 400 companies have already set up shop here to take advantage of the logistics centre. The outbound line cuts through Xinjiang in China before snaking up into Kazakhstan, across Russia, Belarus, Poland, Germany and the Netherlands on a trip that takes about 12 days. This is the Gobi Desert, some 1,200 square kilometres of sun-blasted sand that stretches all the way from northwest China up into Mongolia. In the old days, traders used to brave these wastes on the old Silk Road. But today, locals are hoping for a trade of a different kind. And that trade is tourism. In ancient times, Dunhuang was a garrison town on the Silk Road. Today, the trade caravans are gone, but swaying camelback rides are back in fashion, with many of the more than 6 million tourists that come here every year. The Singing Sand Mountains, named for the eerie noise created by the wind blowing across their shifting faces, are a sea of towering sand dunes. Hidden in their midst is an ancient desert oasis. All this has proven a hit with travellers, who pumped about $1 billion into the local economy in 2015. More than 1,000 years ago, a Buddhist monk wandering the desert near the old Silk Road came upon this cliff face. In the sky above, legend has it, he saw 1,000 floating Buddhas. Painstakingly, by hand, he carved a cave into the bare rock, beginning a tradition that would go on for centuries and give rise to one of the wonders of the ancient world, the Mogao Grottos. Hidden away inside this cliff face, the Mogao Grottos is a treasure trove of Buddhist art and a UNESCO-listed heritage site. It's comprised of almost 500 man-made caves, which were gradually chiselled into the rock and decorated over centuries. Many of the works here were commissioned by merchant princes and even royalty. For about 1,000 years, the grottos were an important cultural and religious waypoint on the Silk Road, but when a nearby water source dried up, they were abandoned and largely forgotten, lost to the desert sands for hundreds of years. Rediscovered in the early 1900s, the grottos are now a major tourist attraction, filled with modern-day pilgrims come to behold their wonders, which include more than 400 statues, the biggest of which stands 35 metres tall. The walls boast some 45,000 square metres of Buddhist frescoes and incorporate artistic influences from as far afield as ancient Rome and India.
The Buddhist art at the Mogao Grottos has included both the Han cultures from Central China and the cultures from Central Asia, Western Asia, and South Asia, and the cultures from Europe, Roman culture. So in some caves, you see the different cultural elements, like the cave 158, which was from 8th to 9th century. You can see the portraits or images of the people from different races and nationalities, like from Korean, from Persia, from Indian, from Asian Tibet.
看完莫高窟以后，感觉很震撼，体现我们的祖先的聪明、智慧和能干，感觉到这个工程很伟大。
It's unbelievable. It's amazing. I had a great guide. The big Buddha made me cry. I mean, very emotional, and the whole history. More people should see it.
我觉得非常的震撼，看到这个我们中国这个，尤其是这个文化能够在这么一个地方把这些中国的这个佛教以及我们结合我们中国的文化能保存得这么好，我觉得这不可思议，很不可思议。
Whether it's through tourism driven by the historical sites left behind by the old Silk Road, or economic development being driven by its 21st century equivalent, the Belt and Road Initiative, for the first time in a long time, the road ahead for Gansu holds promise.
Why is it so important to attract young, skilled workers to Gansu?
Well, for any regional development, the quality of population is the most important one. If we look at the far west development in the United States, number one is the immigration policy. So number two is the agricultural policy. And number three is really the infrastructure policy. And that really brings, people, land, technology, infrastructure, and later on capitalists, the money together. So with the whole blend of those economic resources with people in the core, so that can really develop the region.
Now, the report raised some initiatives that the government is taking to speed up development in the poorer areas in China's west and central regions. Tell me a little bit more about the One Belt, One Road initiative.
I think the government has a whole basket of programs that are there to trying to bring up the balance across China. And because we have the socialistic nature, and we do not really want to neglect, any child within this big family. So I think the transfer payment is still a very effective one, although it is not very precise one, to help the local government to build more of the infrastructure and to build more of the local schools, etc. And then we also have a sort of a systematic sister relationship. For example, to get Shanghai city to match with certain region in the western part, to have the sort of Ministry of Commerce to get, in partnership with the local town. That is also very effective. My university also has sister relationship with the university in Gansu and with the high school in Gansu, so that I remember our mission is to ensure that every child will be able to have access to have one chicken egg per day. So, the transfer of resource and the sort of partnership
are very,
knowledge sharing, skill sharing, and also vision. And I think the central government also has done a great deal in helping them to build the more sophisticated infrastructure, from highway to railway to airport expansion, etc. Yes, now you have the Mercedes, you have the Porsche, but do you drive the car to travel with pigs, or to travel with more expensive tourists?
Right. Well, there has been something like 16,000 kilometers of railway built in China's poorer regions in the last decade or something.
That's right. How to take advantage of all the infrastructures almost given by the central government. And now the One Belt One Road is over there. So they had their glory and prosperity during the history as the gateway and as the hub and as the logistics center for the trade between the Oriental part and also the Western part. But can they really display the DNA of their forefathers to be more entrepreneurial and to be able to leverage more of the resources so that they found their role to play. It is not only, yes, okay, you know, central government, we are doing a good job for you for the, the Silk Road Initiative, but how can they do a good job for them, for the individual farmers, for those, the smaller companies locally, so that they can really cash in on those, opportunities.
Okay, well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to China Insight. I've been discussing China's East-West wealth gap and the initiatives being taken to narrow it with Professor Liu Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics. Well, China Insight was in China's Gansu Province. We asked several people there what changes they've noticed over the last year. We also spoke to tourists about their impressions.
I was surprised because I went downtown. It's quite, it's big and it's almost like any capital of the world, I would say. Right now I'm in a small hostel, but I like, that it's more primitive. It's a little bit less touristic, like Beijing.
这个道路跟上一次来啊，就是好得多了。这一次，感觉的话呢，今后咱们的 这个甘肃啊，发展的肯定会很好。
而且我觉得这边交通变得越来越好了。然后像以前来的话，可能交通不太便利，别人就在这边发展也发展不起来。然后现在交通变得缩短到有高铁开始了，城际快线也开始了，我觉得这边会带动起来。
甘肃的变化不如，就是这十几年来还是不如东部城市的变化大，就是变化的幅度不如吧。
Actually, it's a poor province, really. But every people live here, they are happy. They're very proud of this province.
Is that in line with how you see the province developing?
Pretty much so. Actually, I'm rather familiar with this area. I offer some training to the local government and even to the oil field they have. If you really want the say princess to marry and get settled in your town, what need you to do? So you need to have a good house, and you need to have all the siblings to behave like a gentleman or like a fair lady, and you need to have a good parenthood, so that they feel that, well, they are happy by living with you, by working with you, and then they contribute to the local community.
Thank you very much for coming on the program, Professor Liu.
Thank you also for the invitation with a great question on this great topic.
I'm sure we'll see you again soon. If you have any comments or questions, please email us at chinainsight@cctv.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Weibo and WeChat. And we'll see you next time for more stories and discussion on China out of China.